What's up guys, Techmaster back with another video. So today we're going to be comparing the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So obviously if you have all the money, getting the 14 Pro Max is the best. But this is just a little comparison. So on the back, or on the displays, we have 6.7 inch displays, so they're both the three largest phones, or iPhones. The 12 Pro Max does not have ProMotion technology, and that's basically a higher screen refresh rate, and it looks much smoother and faster, so it does not have that. The 14 Pro Max has an always-on display, which is new to the iPhones. Next, on the 14 Pro Max, we have dynamic island, so there's no notch. So as you can see, the notch has been removed, and now we have this, dynamic island. It's basically a notch. It's not a notch. It's not a notch. It's a thing that allows notifications. It's like this little thing at the top. It's that black thing at the top, but it's a notification. It's not a notch anymore, basically. Sorry, I couldn't really speak before. Okay, next, emergency SOS. So we have emergency SOS via satellite on the 14 Pro Max and crash detection, versus we have emergency SOS standard on the 12 Pro Max and 13 Pro Max. Next, cameras. This is a massive difference. We have a 48 megapixel main camera on the 14 Pro Max versus 12 megapixels main cameras on the 12 Pro Max and the 13 Pro Max. We have a autofocus on the true depth camera, which improves, the focusing, and then we have a photonic engine for really incredible photos. Next, optical zoom range. The 12 Pro Max has a slightly worse optical zoom range because it doesn't have, it has smaller lenses. As you can see, it has smaller lenses, and it doesn't have as far of a telephoto lens. Next, battery life. Battery life is much worse on the 12 Pro Max. It has a fairly small battery. It has a 3,687 milliamp hour battery versus 4,352 on the 13 Pro Max. And then the 13 Pro Max actually has better battery life than the 14 Pro Max. It may look like it has another hour, but the 13 Pro Max has pretty good battery life unless your battery health degrades a lot for some reason. Next, performance. We have a A16 Bionic chip, which is the fastest smartphone chip. We have the A15 on the 13 Pro Max and the A14 on the 12 Pro Max. But honestly, I would not upgrade to the 14 Pro Max at all if you care about performance. The A14 chip is still a monster, and it does incredible on iOS 16. Next, Face ID, we don't really need to talk about that. 5G, they all have 5G, millimeter wave, all that stuff. So yeah, pretty much the same thing here. They're both compatible. Now let's talk about storage. So the 12 Pro Max does not have 1 terabyte. Not that you need that, but if you take a crazy amount of photos and you can't have 512 and you need more than that, then 1 terabyte is useful. Next, let's talk about the displays. So, like I said, we don't have ProMotion, and we have a crazy bright display on the 14 Pro Max. We have 2,000 nits peak brightness outdoors, 1,600 with HDR, and yeah. And then the 12 Pro Max is definitely not. It's still pretty bright, but it's only 800 nits, and goes up to 1200. The 13 Pro Max is typical brightness is also 200 nits brighter. Let's see. The 13 and 14 Pro Max are 12 grams heavier than the 12 Pro Max as well. So we don't really need to talk about that. Cameras. So we have the 48 megapixel main on the 14 Pro Max. We have photonic engine. We have sensor shift. That started on the 12 Pro Max. We have action mode on the 14 Pro Max, which is incredible. So action mode stabilizes your video. Even if you're shaking the phone, it automatically stabilizes it it is so incredible, action mode. It is actually remarkable. It stabilizes your photo completely. Completely. And I mean completely. We have macro video and ProRes video. We don't have either of those on the 12 Pro Max. Let's see, front camera, pretty much the same thing. No photographic styles on that, doesn't really matter. We have ProRes video. Not a massive difference. We don't have that on the 12 Pro Max, nor photographic styles on the 12 Pro Max. Again, and then safety, we have the emergency SOS via satellite, and then crash detection. And then cellular, same, but there's nothing really, nothing on that. Secure authentication, no, don't care. Now, battery life. So we have a much smaller battery on the 12 Pro Max, so you get about, oh wow. So video playback is 20 hours versus 28 and 29. Oh, and then video playback streamed, there's a massive difference. The 12 Pro Max only gets 12 hours versus 25 on the others. And then audio playback about an extra 15 hours on the 13 and 14 Pro Max. So again, if you want the best battery life, the 12 Pro Max actually has the smallest battery, even smaller than the 11 Pro Max. So you are going to get the smallest battery of, if you want a big phone, you want crazy battery life, the 12 Pro Max is not going to, it's going to have the smallest battery out of the Max versions. Now, SIM card. So we do not have a physical SIM card on the 14 Pro Max. It's new. So you need an electronic SIM on these. So as you can see, the 14 Pro Max is not compatible with physical SIM cards, lightning ports, all that stuff, you know. And that pretty much covers up this video. So again, like I mentioned, if you own a 12 Pro Max or a 13 Pro Max, I would highly recommend not upgrading to a 14 Pro Max. I mean, yeah. But if you have an 11 Pro Max, upgrading to a 14 Pro Max is exceptional, I would say, because the 11 Pro Max does not have the best cameras. Don't get me wrong, it has triple cameras, but the night photography is not as good on the 11 series. The 11 series does not have the best night mode photography, so because the sensors are small, they don't let as much light in. So in that case, if you take a bunch of night mode, it is definitely upgrade worthy. The 12s though have incredible night photos. They have much better, much more stabilized. So in that case, I would not recommend upgrading if you have a 12 Pro Max or a 12 or anything like that. Anyway, that pretty much sums up this video, and see you guys later.